In today's video, we will take the first step in our boat design process by creating the document that outlines the specifics of our boat design. Stay tuned. Hello there everyone. Thanks for joining me again in my boat design series. Before delving into the new episode, let's recap what was covered in the previous one. Initially, we discussed the overall process of boat building. Then we focused on the design aspect of this process. We briefly explored the role of the designer and the tools required for the effective design. Additionally, we examined books as a source of knowledge. And finally, we explored the boat design spiral that we will follow in our boat design journey. As pledged in the previous episode, I will guide you through each step of the design spiral. This episode marks the beginning of our journey and its first step, which is boat definition. So let's start. Before we begin drafting the definition of our boat, let's review a few questions that can help us understand the importance of the boat definition and why we need to do this step. The first question is why we need to do boat definition for our small boat. It's very small, straightforward, simple. Well, I can agree with that statement for more or less experienced designers, but we aim to challenge ourselves by the end of this season with the design of 15 to 14 meter boats with multiple cabins and spacious interiors that are much more complex than the ones that we are doing now. So it's better to practice on this small boat, and when time comes for more complex ships and boats, we know the process and we know how to do it. And if we recall story about the goal definition from a previous episode, this is actually our goal setup. This is what we are designing. So that's the reason why we need to do it. The second question is why we need boat definition in general. I will lay out four most obvious reasons for this. The first one is having a boat definition. It serves as an input for the concept design. The second is that we transform the idea through this boat definition into measurable goal. So this measurable goal can be tracked and monitored throughout the time to see if we are on track. And lastly, a good boat definition that is agreed upon start of the project with all the stakeholders can be very beneficial in controlling all those stakeholders. The next question that we need to provide an answer to is how we define the boat. In the previous episode, we talked about the role of the designer, and we said the designer needs to find the technical solutions that are going to satisfy the need and constraint in the same time. Now let's unpack what the idea is. The idea is something very valuable to the people. It's a wish, maybe a problem-solving solution, a dream. Bottom line is that all of these items are a need. So that's what it is. Idea is a need of someone. So we can say that our design is actually defined by the needs and constraints. And now that's exactly what we are going to do in our document. We are going to lay down the needs and constraints in a written form. In order to achieve that, first we need to find the needs and constraints. The question that comes by itself is where we can find the needs and constraints. As we have mentioned before, idea is coming from ourselves, client, friend, family, and so on and so on. We will name it idea holder. On the other hand, constraints can be found in various places such as authorities, suppliers, production, markets, and anybody else who is in some sort of way involved in our project. Additionally, documents like rules and regulations, installation manuals, user manuals, service manuals can provide also very valuable information about constraints. Gathering information from these sources is relatively straight and easy. You just need to gather them and read them. However, gathering requirements and needs from an idea holder is a little bit more challenging. Therefore, in the next step, we will discuss some of the common methods used for gathering information from the idea holder. Interviews are a well-known method of gathering information from another person. Advantages of using interviews is that we can always ask follow-up questions and delve into the core needs of idea holder, and we can get really into details. However, interviews can be time-consuming and highly dependent on the timing and state of mind of the person that is being interviewed. For instance, if idea holder is under the pressure of deadline or under the stress, it's better to reschedule the interview for the more peaceful time. In the same time, interviews are very sensitive to the personality of interviewed person. That is the reason why designer needs to have a skill to adapt his personality and behavior to the behavior of interviewed idea holder or a client. Shadowing involves observing the person in action, which means that you are invited by idea holder to his boat or yacht to see from firsthand how they're using it or what they do with it. This is an excellent way to find the hidden treasures. For instance, if you're sitting in a cockpit and your host offers you a drink and then he needs to leave the cockpit in order to get it and make some comments about that, that's it. That's the treasure that you're looking for. Those are the hidden needs that you need to fulfill. In the same time, you can see how they're docking, mooring, and all other things related to operational part of the boat. Shadowing is great technique, but there are also cons for it, and that's that it's more time consuming than interviews and not every person likes to be shadowed. Workshops provide an excellent means of gathering requirements for multiple stakeholders in the same time instead of doing it with each one of them through interviews. In the same times, workshops are really good in solving complex scenarios where needs and constraints from one scenario are conflicting from needs and constraints from another one. So bridging all that and trying to figure out the middle ground and properly sort out what is a wish and what is really a need, they're excellent for that. In the same time, consensus can be achieved easier because they're all together and you can solve it in a real time. And I'll just give you an example. For instance, if you are having a fishing as a hobby and you want to design a fishing boat, create a barbecue for friends and talk about the boats, you will gather plenty of technical solutions. But if you ask a little bit more, you can gather needs and constraints. So workshops are excellent, but they also, as any other means, have a pitfall that they are very expensive. We talk about companies. And if we talk about skills of designer, well, more people are harder to manage than just one. So you really need to be skilled to direct the workshop to go in proper direction. Surveys are a useful method of gathering data from a large stakeholder group. Advantage of surveys is that there is no engagement from our side when we are conducting survey, or better saying, gathering the data. In the same time, sorting out the data, it's fairly simple because surveys are usually in questionnaire forms, so it's very simple to sort them out and evaluate all that. However, there is no possibility for follow-up questions, and surveys are very sensitive to how we ask the question and to the pool of people that are being surveyed. So for instance, if you survey the pool of people that are having a fishing boats about the sailboats, those data will not be very relevant. So be careful about that. These are 4 commonly used methods for gathering needs and constraints. First two, interviews and shadowing, are very good for gathering needs and constraints for a very small group of people, while workshops are up to 10, I would say, and surveys are for a large amount of stakeholders. Now let's interview a guy that is interested in having a boat. Good day, Nico. I heard that you can design me a boat.
Hello, sir. Yes, that's correct. I can design the boat. Can you tell me more about it? What kind of boat are you looking for?
I'm looking for a small boat, basically a daily cruiser that I can take my family with and go in an area around my town and relax on the water.
Do you want a motorboat or a sailboat?
I'm looking for the motorboat. Sailboat is not working for me. I'm living in the area where I have plenty of bridges that are very low, so it's not going to work.
Okay, so you're looking for a motorboat that is with a low air draft?
Yes, indeed. I need a low boat because bridges are somewhere between 1.5 meter, 2 meter above the water.
So let's conclude. It's a daily cruiser open motorboat.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. You have mentioned air draft. Are there any other limitations in dimensions like length, breadth, draft?
I want to transport boat with a trailer, so in a length roughly 6 meter, not more. Width is determined by the traffic. Regarding draft, 0.5 meter, let's put something like that. While these two are having a conversation, let's go and dive a bit more into what we are searching for in the interview. Main thing is that we need to find out the purpose of the boat and what boat should do and how it will be used. Beside that, we need to find all kind of limitations like what are the maximum main dimensions, draft, but also wishes like what is desired speed or preferred propulsion solution. Since we will design the pleasure boats in these series, we need to unpack what the pleasure is for the idea holder. As an example, for somebody, pleasure is to lay down on a boat, drink a beer and do nothing, while somebody else is going to search for the wakeboarding or fishing or something else. In the meantime, make sure that you take good notes in the interview and be curious. Now, since we know what we are looking in the field, let's go back.
How about entertainment, music,
No, for music, I have my phone and I want Bluetooth speaker that I can bring and take from boat because, as I said, I don't want to leave anything precious on board.
Do you need maybe some charging points for the phone or speaker?
That's actually a good idea. Make few of them, few in around the helm position and few in rest of the boat.
Can you tell me where the boat will be registered?
Boat will be registered in Netherlands.
Okay. Well, Netherlands is really not a warm area. Do you need some protection for the passengers on board? Spray hood, something like that?
Oh, yeah. Correct. So please make a spray hood in the forward part, protect people from spray and wind. And in summer, it can be very tricky with the sun. So can you make and design some bimini above the helm station so then I can sit in the shade and not in the sun?
Okay, I think I have enough for now. Let me make some proposal and I will come back to you soon. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's see what you can do.
All right, thank you.
When the interview is conducted, we need to go through the notes and extract needs and limitations and place them in the document that is going to define our boat. In our case, what we know from the interview is that a boat will be a pleasure boat. It's going to be an open boat without superstructure. It needs to carry 6 people. It will have a maximum length of 6 meters and a width of 2.45. The boat will have a maximum draft of 0.5 meter. The boat will have enough fuel for 5 hours of sailing on a cruising speed, and it will comply with ISO rules. For now, I will write down that it's going to be built from steel, and you will see later on how I know that. The boat will have a self-draining cockpit, and it will be propelled with an outboard engine of 15 to 20 horsepower, and the engine will be controlled from the helm station. We will have a fridge for cold drinks, table nearby, seating position. Seating area will be able to be transformed in a sun bed area. The boat will have a spray hood, a bimini to protect helmsman from the sun, storage and charging for the phones, and that's it. So this is what we are designing. Now let's summarize what we have covered in this episode. We have discussed the importance of having a clear definition and understanding of what the boat is and what it needs to do, as well as where to find the necessary needs and constraints. Additionally, we have briefly explored various methods that can be employed to gather them. Then we had an interview with a potential client, and lastly, we created a document that defines our design. That concludes this episode. Don't hesitate to share your thoughts or ask a question. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down, but please share your thoughts and comments so I can improve future content. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching.